One day after the Stanley Cup Riot report was released, Gregor Robertson promises he will work toward enacting all the recommendations the report suggested for future outdoor events in Vancouver. But a closer look at the report itself, which is several hundred pages long, shows the mayor still has some explaining to do about the planning for that chaotic night in June. And Deb Hope joins us now with more NewsHour Insight tonight. Deb.
Yes, thanks, Chris. As we reported last night, the Riot report came down fairly easily on both the VPD and the mayor. It laid the blame for the violence strictly on the rioters themselves. But a closer inspection of the research part of the report shows that the onus for the planning on the outdoor celebrations was on City Hall and not on the police. And what does the mayor have to say about that? Here's Ted Field.
Gregor Robertson out at one of the many community events a mayor attends. Lots of smiles and pictures. But after, more questions about the role of the mayor and the city in the Stanley Cup Riot.
I'm responsible for public safety in the city of Vancouver.
Deep inside yesterday's Riot review is an independent technical assessment written by senior members of the Ottawa Police. And it raises questions about live site planning and who is accountable. The report finds it was not clear who owned the event. Many thought the Vancouver Police Department was the lead organization. In fact, it was the City of Vancouver. And it finds the city department in charge didn't have the capacity or expertise to deliver such a large-scale event.
It was very clear that the city was planning and in charge of the live site event. That was coordinated with the VPD and all the city's departments. The public safety is the responsibility of the Vancouver Police Department.
The assessment finds senior Vancouver police officers voice concerns over the risks of a large fan site. They advise city officials to situate any live site outside the downtown core, also away from the Granville Entertainment District, which is traditionally a magnet for crowds, alcohol, and partying. Also, the VPD faced pressure to reverse perception of Vancouver as a no-fun city.
So who overruled the police and decided to put those live sites downtown in a very congested area?
Well, it was a collective decision process, so there wasn't an overruling situation there. It was more trying to make the best decision for the city, the one that would work for the kind of crowds that were anticipated, which all went very well until Game 7, when the crowds were way beyond, I think, what anyone expected.
Did you play a part in making that decision?
No, I wasn't involved directly in the decision around the live site choice.
Should you have been?
Potentially, I was involved, obviously, on the budget side, making sure that we were all aware of the potential budget implications.
The mayor's job in this case was to be responsible for those live sites. Those were city sites. It was a city function. It was a city invitation to the whole of the Lower Mainland. Come into downtown Vancouver and have a party.
Just hours before Game 7, the mayor was upbeat.
It's as good as it gets, and tonight it's going to get even better.
Unfortunately, the city's plans went up in flames.
Now, the fact is, we could be in the same position next year if the Canucks go on a major playoff tear. And rioting has been known to break out in Vancouver even without the big screen TVs and the so-called live events drawing in the crowds, which raises a question that yesterday's Riot report didn't answer. Who exactly should pay for everything from extra policing to the cleanup?
Tale of two cities. In Boston, it was the best of times. In Vancouver, the worst of times. In Boston, the Bruins organization pays for policing costs outside the arena. In Vancouver, the Canuck buck stops at the door. Once fans leave the building, it's the Vancouver taxpayer who's on the hook for all those security costs. And according to a former city councillor, that simply must change.
In the future now, certainly for the next game, the next finals, we're talking multi-million dollar budgets. Anything that could be conceived of as likely leading to a riot or even conditions that no one wants to entertain is going to have to be covered off, and that's going to be expensive. Well, do you give a blank check to the police department? You certainly don't want to be politically in a situation where you seem not to have done something regardless of the cost. So the real question for me is, who pays? Who should pay? Who will pay?
Soon after the riot, the Canucks were asked that given all the money the organization had made during the playoff run, would they be willing to help pay for some of the policing and cleanup costs? The short answer, they said they were never asked. And 2.5 months later...
Have you asked them to help pay for some of the costs in this past situation?
No, I haven't personally, but we have an ongoing conversation right now, and we'll be looking, I think, at that more proactively for the future event.
The guy behind the Canucks Riot 2011 website says other event organizers in Vancouver almost always have to pay a policing cost for them to get a permit.
What I find odd is that Mayor Robertson and the city manager, Penny Ballum, they were so concerned with when UFC came to town that they wanted to charge UFC money to police the streets. And we're talking with a single event of 18,000 people. And yet, when it comes to inviting 150,000 people to the downtown core, a city event, they didn't see to put themselves under that same scrutiny or that same microscope. So it was a bit hypocritical.
He also believes the city should leave event planning to third-party interests who know what they're doing. As for the Canucks pitching in for last June's riot, calls to the hockey organization were not returned.
A lot of lessons hopefully learned, Chris.
You know, that's what we said in '94, and look what happened in June. But yeah, we'll see the next time. And who knows, maybe it will be 6 months down the road when the Canucks make another run for the Cup.
That would be good.
It sure would. Thank you very much, Deb.